Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor of the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on another episode of the BAM with Lori and Jenny. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Lara Merriken on our show. Lara is the founder of LÄRABAR, and she also is a badass mom. And she's currently in her next chapter with a company called Anther that we're going to talk all about today. So excited. We have so many questions. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yay! Where do we start?
Hey, I'm up for anything.
Perfect. Well, so let's just do a little, background of you started this, quote unquote company called LÄRABAR that I'm sure many of you have seen or heard about, or maybe your favorite snack treat. Why don't you give us just a little tidbit about your background and how you got into entrepreneurship and, how you became a mom and what's led you to your current path?
This is a very big journey.
Yeah.
Let me back up a little bit. When I was a teenager, I was a total junk food kid. I could have cared less about healthy eating. It just, whatever was in front of me, I was happy to be eating it, especially Taco Bell. And
oh my God, I love Taco Bell.
If I were to pick one, go-to, fast food, I don't really eat fast food anymore. That would be it still.
Same.
That being said, I went to school. I got accepted to University of Southern California, 18 years old. And then at the very 11th hour, I got an invitation to join their Division I volleyball team. There was only 12 players on this team, including myself. And the coach had a no sugar, healthy eating rule. And I'd never heard about that. And I became insanely committed to eating healthy for the first time in my life. And his whole theory was about how it affected your performance. So I started to see the magic in that. And then I took a few nutrition classes in college. Let me back up a little bit. I was a business major. I started out USC as a business major. I got completely overwhelmed by all the classes and I was leaning more towards nutrition. And then I really got into psychology. I loved the whole, learning about the human experience and the mind. So I ended up getting an undergrad in psychology, and fast forward, I became a social worker. I worked with at-risk kids for 10 years of my life. Loved that. In the middle of that journey professionally, I learned I had a wheat allergy. And wheat allergy back in the 90s was really not fun because there wasn't what we know today. There wasn't a Whole Foods. There was no gluten-free anything. It was a totally uncharted territory. And the only way to deal with it is eliminate it out of your diet. So I went to a doctor who took me on an elimination diet cleanse, which means you go off of everything and you slowly add it back in. And it was one of the hardest things I've done, and a revelation for me, because I learned about all these foods that I'd never heard of that are normal today. Kale, quinoa, It was what are you talking about? It seems so foreign. But I became extremely passionate about it. And I started feeling so much better. I was starting to get migraine headaches. What led me there was I started getting migraine headaches and I'd never had them. Mm-hmm. And the guy took my blood and he said, you are very seriously allergic to wheat. So anyway, journey continues. I got burned out on social work. I love my career, but after 10 years, it was complete survival mode at all times. And my passion really grew for natural foods and healthy living. And that seed got planted, and every bit of time I could spend outside of work, I was reading and researching and learning on myself, trying new foods. And then I thought, I really, really want to do something in this field. I just didn't know what it looked like. I just was like, something in natural foods. Lo and behold, I went hiking one day in the year 2000, and I was eating a trail mix thinking, why hasn't somebody made something made of real food, simple, delicious, but it's portable. I don't know, for whatever reason, in that Colorado hike that day, the light bulb went off for me. And I was like, I could do this. I could make something like this. So I talked to my doctor who had me on this diet elimination cleanse, and he's like, Lara, yes, you should do that. And you should name them things like cherry pie and apple pie, because people that are taking things out of their diet want to feel like they indulge and they want them to be delicious. So I started to emulate pies and cookies and cakes using just fruit and nuts in my kitchen with a Cuisinart. Fun fact, I still have the same Cuisinart today. I still make my own LÄRABARs in my kitchen.
Oh my God.
Done the other day. My all-time favorite is cashew cookie. It's just 2 ingredients. It's just cashews and dates. And to me, it tastes like a shortbread cookie. So anyway, that's how I created LÄRABAR. And I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew is that I was a passionate consumer. And so right after that, I left my social work career. I thought, all right, I'm going to start this company. And it was May. It was like Memorial Day of 2000. And I thought, I'm going to get this going in 3 months. Well, that's hysterical, because if somebody that starts a company, 3 months is very wishful thinking. Well, that did not happen. It turned into 3 years. But what I did is Whole Foods built their first store in Denver, where I grew up. And I thought to myself, I bet you if I worked there, I could learn how they do things. Like I could put my fantasy into reality, and I could get a job and just kind of learn on the job while supporting myself. So that's exactly what I did. I became one of their first employees. We opened the store, and I learned so much about like how powerful sampling is, this and that. And I put together all of my research, like what kind of almonds am I using? What kind of dates? Where do I buy those dates? What does Whole Foods view? Like, every product they view is like prime real estate in their store. So they have expectations of like whether you're selling vitamins or water or pasta or energy bars, there's an expectation. And I just basically soaked it in and took notes during my 3-year period. And slowly but surely, I would call food scientists on the weekends, and I would, or during the weekdays, and say like, can you tell me what shelf life means? And how about packaging? I'd call the packaging company, and then they'd send me information, and then I'd try things, and I'd go to a test lab. And I did all this stuff by myself because I didn't have like deep resources. I was making $11 an hour. I just had a dream of starting this company.
That's amazing. So I want to stop right there. So there is so much to unpack right there. First off, Jenny and I are Colorado natives, right, Jenny? Aren't you?
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, what trail were you on when you had that aha moment, if you remember?
You're the second person in a week that's asked me this, and sadly, no. But I can tell you, I really need to figure this out. I can tell you, it's outside of Buena Vista, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So it's in that mountain range. I'll look it up and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, you circle back. And then the other question, was, and I think Jenny has some more follow up to it, is I think every entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur has that moment when they're like, I have a good idea. What takes a good idea to, I have an idea that's simplistic, but I believe that nobody else has done it. And if they have, I can do it better. What was it that kept pushing you to be like, yeah, don't give up on this idea. It's not a silly idea. It's something that I truly believe in. And I, like you said, went above and beyond to, work at Whole Foods and do all your research. Was there something that just really pushed you?
Thank you for this question. It's a wonderful question. And I think it can apply to a lot of things in life. It wasn't one thing, right? Each step I took added up to the big picture. So first step was realizing I wanted to do this. I ran down the mountain that day. I started writing down ideas in a notebook. I have my notebook while we're talking in case, I don't know, I hear something from both of you and I have some, I gained some wisdom from you. And so I wrote down ideas in my notebook, and then I would comb the grocery stores and I would talk about it with friends. And some friends were like, what are you doing? Why? And then I would start mixing fruit and nuts, and I would put concoctions together. I was like, okay, pies, cookies, cakes, like how can I get the most? And so I would go to my friends' businesses or workplaces during lunch hours, and I would have a survey. I still have them. And it would be like, how come you eat energy bars? And this is at a time where bars were not a normal word. Okay. It was like energy bars were like the power bars of the world. It was its own category for athletes and kind of people doing very active things. And they weren't like a food source for the average person. So I would ask those questions and then why do you eat them? Why don't you eat them? And what I found out was people would eat them. They liked the convenience, but they generally didn't like them. And I was like, well, why can't we have both? Like they're really healthy, made of simple whole food ingredients, but you feel like you just ate a treat. Like why that was in my brain, what I wanted to do without realizing really what the market was actually doing. I mean, I saw what was going on, but I was no like marketing expert. I was just a consumer, like, so it was things like that. And then my friends would give me feedback. I tasted cherry. I like this, but I didn't taste the cherry in every bite. And then I'd go, I have to add more cherries to this. Or I really like the apple pie, but I wish there was a little more cinnamon. Or when I bite into it, I like something thicker. I don't want it thin. I mean, this is what, in true marketing, you call a focus group, but I didn't even know the name. And I was just doing my own little focus groups. And then a friend would say, those bars you made? And I was like, yeah. And then they're like, I buy them from you. And I was like, you would? And then they would go, yeah. And so that motivation, that somebody desiring what I did would propel me to make a phone call about shelf life and take the step for packaging. And each little thing would lead to another. And then sometimes I would have setbacks where I wouldn't get anywhere. And I mean like anywhere for a month or more. And I would just set it aside. And I would think my desk was sitting downstairs and I was like, I'm not doing anything. Maybe I'm not going to do this. I mean, I would sit and doubt myself. And then somebody would call again and say, I want to buy those bars from you. I mean, and I would put them in little Ziploc bags. I'd make them with my Cuisinart and my rolling pin in my kitchen and, like a bench cutter. And I would I would put little labels on them from my printer. So that's what propelled me was people asking and encouraging me.
Yeah. Well, the follow-up I had was it's kind of parallel to this, but when you're on that mountain, right, you had an intuitive hit. And that when I was listening to that, I was like, that is so cool. Because when you have those moments, like Lori said, you have those moments in life where you're like, something just hits you and it's not your normal passing thought. It's like an intuitive hit. I have to do this. And it sounds like that's what happened to you. And it just gave you a ton of energy. So I guess, do you get those on a regular basis? Was this the first time that had happened to you? And how did you know to listen to it?
I think that we all, to your point, have intuitive moments. And often we dismiss them. It's very easy to have a moment and then, well, especially in this day and age, because there's so much in everybody's life, right? And we have more distractions than ever because we're carrying around small computers connected to the entire world on our bodies, right? And we're on them all the time. So it's easy to skip over that. And I will tell you, at the time that this occurred, I had started a meditation practice and a mindful meditation practice. I just found myself kind of feeling, I don't know, just needing to connect with myself more. And I'd never really explored it. And I just started listening, reading some books. It was kind of part of my natural foods journey and all that. And, the mindfulness and meditation. And I would just do it very lightly. It wasn't some big, giant thing. But what I found is quieting my mind and myself to take a pause every day, whether it was 10 minutes or 30 minutes, it didn't need to be some big thing. I started to hear my inner voice and I started to tune in to what it actually was. Instead of having it all covered up with stuff and things going on, I started to tune in. Therefore, when I was on this mountain that day, I remember, like you said, like I felt energized. I felt like, wow, I think this could be something, because it's easy to say that and then leave, run on the mountain that day and it's over, right? Like we've all had ideas. It's like, or it lasts for 5 days and then you're like, yeah, I'm kind of over this.
Jenny and I do it a lot. Okay.
Part of the process, and for whatever reason, each little step I took, it was kind of, I believe, kind of meant to be for me. Like it was meant to be part of my path and my story, because for whatever reason, I kept going. And then I'd do the setbacks and then I wouldn't get anywhere. And then I would have people that I would run into. So I was working, I'm going to go to Whole Foods again. I'm working at Whole Foods. And you have to keep in mind, I was 32 years old. So it wasn't like I was some, young outside of college. I already had a career. Granted, it's social work and it wasn't some high paying thing, but like, I was I had a respected career. And here I am in the eyes of a lot of people working in a grocery store, right? Even though we love Whole Foods, like it was, and I would see classmates of mine from my high school and they'd go, "What are you doing here?" Literally ask me like that. And then I would sit there and think like, what am I doing here?
And now they see you and they're like, "Oh, that's what she was doing there."
Yes. Well, and actually one of my friends years later said, "I really doubted you." And I said, "I'm actually glad you did, because it made me more convicted about what I really wanted to do and how my passion for this was stronger than any doubt," right? Like that I had to keep going, go through all the hard moments and see it through. And I didn't really have in mind like what it actually looked like. I just knew that I needed to bring it to fruition. Let's put it that way. And so I was just willing to stay the course.
And it seems like you had faith. You mentioned at one point, like you just had faith that the right people would show up in your life when you needed them. And they did, like you talked about like the person, I can't remember what it was, but the guy that said, "These are the most innovative thing that I've had." And I'm like, and what really struck me about that moment was just the fact that they're so simple. They're so simple. And it was the most innovative thing he's ever seen. And to me, that's so sad because it's like we dismiss simplicity and it's so important. Like so many things, if we took them back to simple, they'd be amazing.
I think you're really onto something, Jenny, because, as human beings, we have these amazing brains and capacities. And we also, the flip side of that is we overcomplicate things most often to our demise, right? Or to our benefit. It's just, so for me, I started peeling back all the layers right before I started LÄRABAR and I was transitioning out of social work. I was going through, I got married young, my first marriage when I was 23, and we were going through a divorce. We just, we weren't really aligning and we're young. And I just said, I want us to both like flourish in our lives and we're just not helping each other anyway. So I had to really take the inventory in my life. Like, what do I really want my life to look like? If I'm going to kind of do a do-over, like, how do I really want it to look? Like, I really started asking that question rather than like, this isn't working and I'm moving on and I'm going to do this. Like, it's such a way of reacting, and an automatic way is like, what's your next thing? What's this? Instead of just taking almost a pause. And that's where that meditation and kind of getting in touch with yourself and taking a breath and saying, what do I really want my life to look like? How does this next chapter look like, And I started to really ask myself those questions all the time. And no matter whom I was around, what I was doing, your point with aligning with people, like whether people would ask me to buy the bars or I would call a manufacturing facility or about packaging, I would look for the people that were interested in just helping or aligning with me. And I started just doing that. And I didn't look at the important people. I didn't look at their titles or anything like that. I looked for the alignment. Mm-hmm. And that's what led me to the right space. And really in the end, I was honoring my most authentic self by doing that rather than trying to be somebody I wasn't. I was just like, this is who I am. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. And it was the most amazing journey because what I learned is most people love to help other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you continued to just push through, right? Through doubt, through people telling you that maybe they didn't like the way they tasted, or they, were giving doubt about, all the things we're doing, like working at Whole Foods, how you were just persistent. I think that's so important because sometimes when somebody says no, a lot of us take that as I should just stop doing what I'm doing because I was told no. But what you did is you took a no and it empowered you even more to be like, but no, I believe in my product and I believe in what I'm doing and I believe in creating, my, what do we call it? Just the path that we know that we're supposed to be on internally. I feel like sometimes we just know that there's bigger things out there for us. So I think that's all very inspiring. So let's talk a little bit now. Let's kind of jump to your current, journey of your mom. You have a teenage son. So when your journey kind of ended and the chapter turned from LÄRABAR, did you have your son while you were still with LÄRABAR, or did you have him after that chapter had closed? and how did you start juggling your new thoughts on what you were going to do and, motherhood?
Great question. So I built LÄRABAR. I was delighted. It hit a chord with people. It was something innovative and unique. It was just my vision, and it just, the timing worked, and it was really exciting. I ended up selling my company to General Mills, planning on selling a company. I just wanted to build a company. And then as 5 years post launching, actually during that time, all these companies started calling. And I was like, what do you mean? Like,
You have something
I was
good.
like, who even knew? But I was just so focused on what I was doing. I wasn't thinking about it at all. And then I learned there's the business of business, right? Behind the business of business, there's all these other things going on. So my business partners and I decided, like, well, one, we weren't trying to sell the company, but if we found a company that we felt like was aligned with our vision, we would entertain it. And like, why not? And so I felt like they were really, really aligned with our mission. I loved their company, and I loved the balance of men and women. I loved that they focused on family, that their brands had been there forever. They weren't just churning them out. They were really interested in getting into this national organic space. Anyway, so I put together a deal with them. I closed the day before my 40th birthday.
It's so cool that the way that happened.
Yeah, I closed the day before my 40th birthday. I had planned to stay working with them for a year. And then a month later, I got pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
Then I said, I just turned 40. Like, it's like, I know we're not sure what we're going to, we weren't really discussing it like heavy duty because I was running a huge company.
Yeah.
And I really had time to even eat lunch during the day. And I just said, and so, we threw caution to the wind and I got pregnant. It was just meant to be. I was like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. That's really the way I viewed it for myself. And then I had this beautiful dream, and I met my son in my dream before I even knew I was having a boy.
Oh, I totally
have a boy.
I want to hear all about that.
It was, I don't know. I just met him in a dream, and I woke up and I was like, I just met this. I think that's my child in my dream.
Is that after you were pregnant, or?
Yes, it was right before I found out that he was a boy. So it was around 3 to 4 months old. And again, there's that intuition going on there. And then when the doctor told me you're having a boy, I was like, yeah.
Duh.
Like, I know, I already met him.
It was so weird. It was actually amazing. It's like the universe talking,
Yes.
So anyway, so I got pregnant after I sold the company to General Mills. I stayed on, and I had a contract with them for a year. I had my son the following year, and then they called and said, "We love working with you." And I was like, "I love working with you." And I was just in it. They said, "We'd love to work with you, just kind of as an advisor." And I have remained to do that until last year, middle of last year, and actually we're working together again. I mean, it's been an amazing arc for me because I remember the day I was on the hike. I remember the idea moment. And then I watched this enormous company take it, and they've learned a lot from LÄRABAR. They learned the marketing was like, we learned a lot about, your approach to marketing and simplicity. I mean, they're really good at amazing things.
And they still need you. I love that they were like, we still need you.
Yeah. And I love it because to me, in a bigger picture, like a small company coming together with a big company can make, it's like how we connect as human beings, and we grow things. And to me, there's a beauty in all of that. I mean, a lot of people viewed my sale, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were very upset about my sale to LÄRABAR.
Yeah.
Like I sold out, and I got a lot of feedback, and I got feedback from consumers that cared because they were worried, because you read or you hear. And usually it's not positive for whatever reason. And I have had the most positive experience working with this amazing company over all these years, and all these people that come in and are passionate about the brand and have new ideas. And it's been an incredible part of my life.
I love that.
So yes. So in the middle of all that, I had a child.
Yeah. No big deal.
So being an advisor for General Mills while you had your son obviously, hopefully provided the flexibility you needed to really be there for him.
Yes, they did. I mean, it was it's been very part-time. I was an advisory role for LÄRABAR, the face of the brand. I just all things LÄRABAR, right? I mean, because there's no one knows it as well as I do. I have a kind of a fun fact too. I never planned on naming this bar LÄRABAR. It was a last decision. I was going to name it Mana Bar, which is your vital energy, MANA, which is your chi and your vital energy. And then we realized at the 11th hour, the trademark attorney's like, I think you're going to have a conflict with something. And so it was literally like just the quick option. And I thought, there's no way I can have my name on this.
Yeah.
And so anyway, just kind of, most people don't realize that.
I love it. That is a fun fact. By the way, you were my go-to. I mean, so you're right. LÄRABAR was one of the first, didn't taste like a protein bar, for bodybuilders. It was a healthy bar. And I also found out I had an intolerance to wheat. So I've avoided it for quite some time. And you were my go-to. And actually the minis, I like the minis a lot.
Well, I'll tell you how the minis were created because I was doing demos. Okay. So the very day that I get into, you live in Colorado, natural groceries and Whole Foods, and I wheel in my product and I'm so excited to get it on the store shelves. And I'm literally also terrified because I'm thinking, here's the moment I've been working for 3 years. And what if nobody likes this? But, I had gotten feedback and I was like, what if my friends are just, being nice?
Yes.
Anyway, so I put my product on the shelf, I cut up samples and I'm giving them out and talking to people. And I used to make these, we called them Lara barges. I would make a bunch of product. We'd make 40-pound batches of the product and I'd put it almost in a bread pan. And then because I didn't want to use a lot of packaging. And so I cut little samples. And then I realized food safety wise, from demo to demo per day, I mean, they were fine sitting, but I was as we started to grow, I was like, we can't do that anymore. So then I was like, well, and then we were giving away whole bars. And then I was like, we need a half bar. So that's how the minis came into play.
I love them. They're perfect for just that little thing. Cause I will say I'm sure if you did listen to enough so that I get hangry. And there've been moments in my family where I'm surprised I'm still married because I've said terrible things. And they probably saved my marriage on more than one occasion.
They're like the perfect bite-sized treat, right? And if you want more, you have 2 minis, right? And that's what I totally agree with Jenny. Just
minis is a full bar. See, a mini is a half bar, and 2 minis is a full bar.
Perfect.
And you combine different flavors. So if you want a half and half,
yes, I love it.
So I have an important question. Does your son love them, or does he is he so tired of them that he doesn't eat them?
He does love them. And I'll tell you a really sweet story. Years ago, we were, I don't know, I think we were in Target shopping and we're strolling through the store. He was probably half his age, about 8 years old. And I come upon, the bar aisle and there they are. And he goes, Mama, oh my God, did you make all these bars for the store? And I said, yes, and technically no, but yes, in a way I did. And I was like, it was the first time that he realized, that they were sold.
Yeah.
It really dawned on him. He knew, he heard about it and then he saw it and it just hit home. And it was a really fun memory.
That's when he really knew he had a badass mom. He was
he's like, she's a big deal.
Yeah. And at 8, it's so funny because my son's always like, why do you say badass mom? Is that a good thing? And I'm like, it's a great thing, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claim it badass. You're badass. I love it.
Yeah.
So his all-time favorite is peanut butter chocolate chip. And he's my tester if we are working on new products or even if I'm a cook. I went to culinary school post the sale of LÄRABAR because I'd always wanted to go.
Oh my gosh.
Believe it or not. Yes. And so I'm an avid cook and baker and, all things. And I'm always like, hey, buddy, try this. Tell me what you think. And he's my taster. So it's really, really fun to show share the culinary world with him.
Yes.
Beginning with LÄRABAR being the start of it.
I love matchmaking people, just FYI. And I'm telling you, my workout partner, we've worked out together for years. She's my neighbor and I adore her, but she went to culinary school. She's a food scientist. And I'm like, I swear I have to connect the two of you. And she's awesome. She's also a badass mom.
So let's jump to your current now, and you have a new company. It's called Anther. We want to hear all about it. What sparked your creativeness to start another company, and what are you hoping to really put out into the universe for people to learn and to participate and to be a part of your next chapter?
Oh, you're so sweet. Similar to LÄRABAR and many of the things I've done in my life, it really wasn't a plan. And so I just kind of look for where I get passion and energy, where it leads me. And I will tell you that post LÄRABAR, as I said, I went to culinary school. I had a lot more time, right? I was building a company for years. I was running a company. I was like underwater most of the time, just in terms of just the daily. I was like I was running a marathon at 150 miles an hour, and the treadmill. And I will say that treadmill is very real. And it's easy to get on that treadmill in our society because, first of all, it's promoted and it's lauded. Like the harder you work, like you're a great person. But the flip side of that is that we all need to rejuvenate and replenish. And so anyway, so I found myself just indulging myself in, cooking school and all kinds of things post LÄRABAR, and still advising and being a mom. Not that that's not a lot, but I just realized I had a lot more space over time. And then I was a volleyball player in college. So I took up tennis. I was like, I'm going to learn tennis. And then I captaining a team and this and that. And I just, anything I wanted to do. And then I was like raising hens and, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, one thing led to another, and, psychology is my undergrad. So I found out about this program at the University of Pennsylvania. It's a master's in positive psychology. I was sitting in a board meeting at my son's school, and this young woman came in, and she's a high school student. She's like, I am really, really inspired by the wellness program at this school. And wellness is starting to become something right now, but it's not a big thing yet at school, like mental health and all the things that we talk about more now, but it's anyway. So she started talking about it as it relates to school and how much she learned and how it's changing her life, and how when she goes to college, she wants to get into psychology and positive psychology. And I was like, what is positive psychology? Well, it's a study of human flourishing and well-being. So I looked into this program, and it originated at Penn. The doctor that started, his name is Marty Seligman. And he said in 1998, he became head of the American Psychological Association. And he said, what is life worth living if what is it about? He said, we've done a good job getting people to ground zero, like in psychology, a win is, getting somebody from underwater to level, right? But really, what is life about? Why are we here as human beings? Meaning and purpose, positive emotions, relationships, and, connection. And I read this and I was like, I have to apply to that program. And this is 3 years ago. I said to it was like the holidays in 2021. And I said to my husband, I was like, so I found out about this program. I think I'm going to apply to it. And he's like, are you serious? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I'm crazy. But after 35 years of being in school, I'm going to apply. So I had to dig up all my transcripts. I had to get recommendations. I didn't even have a resume. When you run your own company, you don't need a resume. You're running a company. And I was like, I had to write a resume. I had to write, an essay. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So the 6-month process, I finally got into the last round of interviews and I got accepted. So 2022, there was 54 of us from around the world. It was a hybrid. So it was great because I didn't have to be gone, right? We had a lot of hybrid on Zoom classes live, and I could still parent and do all the things I was doing. And then occasionally I would travel back to Penn in Philadelphia. It completely opened my whole world up. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I wasn't even planning on the next chapter.
Yeah.
And I was just so excited by the fact that all of these people devote their lives to researching well-being and human flourishing. And how do we build resilience in our life? How do we recover from difficulties? How do we build better relationships with each other? What are these tools that we need to make our lives better? Right? Because otherwise, what are we doing? Like, to me, what we're doing here is we're sharing information to help make the world better, right? I mean, if I were to sum this up, like, we're sharing information to help other women and to connect with each other and relate. So I went through this program. It was a 2-year program in 1 year.
Oh my God.
The first month, I remember laying on my living room floor and I just cried. Like, it was total overwhelm. And my husband's like looking at me and he goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I am so overwhelmed. I have to write thesis paper after thesis paper." I had 4 classes. I had a full class load. And I was like, he goes, "Well, you don't have to do this." And I said, "I know, but I want to do this." So,
why in 1 year? Why not 2? Why did you condense it?
It was the way the program's designed.
Got it. Okay.
Just condense into a year.
Oh my God.
So the workload was just relentless.
Intense.
So yeah, that's how they designed it. It's a 1-year program. So, I mean, I hadn't been in this environment. First of all, I hadn't been in this kind of learning environment really ever, right? I didn't take college that seriously. I kind of showed up to classes and but now I'm like, I want to do well. Anyway, it was an incredible experience. I met people from all over the world. I met people from Saudi Arabia to Mexico City, to South America, Canada, you name it, were in my cohort. People from all walks of life doing different things. And it took my world from my little world to like, there's this world of people out there wanting to do good things. So I had an incredible experience. Post that, I wrote for my capstone, I did a book proposal, which I'm actually working on a book about my story, becoming an entrepreneur right now. I'm in the process of writing it. It's very difficult for me because writing is not a natural, it's not my skill. And I'm married to a very proficient writer. My husband got his degree in journalism, his master's. And so I live with a very proficient writer. But anyway, I did my capstone in that. And then post that, I decided I wanted to get my certification in coaching because coaching is a really great way to practice positive psychology and to really help people and be present for them. And so I did 2 years of school. I just wrapped that up last year. And then one of my colleagues from Penn, John Rosenberg, and he called me and he said, "We've talked about this, but I would love to do something together." He's been in business for many, many years. He also is of the belief of, how do you get to a thriving place in your life? That's not just saying that sounds very simple, but as we all know, the human experience is varied. It can have a good moment in an hour and then 2 hours from now, we have a very challenging situation, right? Like for whatever reason, deal with those undulations. How do we deal with transitions in our lives? How do we ask ourselves the very serious questions? What is really important to me? Why am I doing this? Like, why am I around this person? Are we filling each other up? Are we bringing each other up? So we decided to start a company called Anther. And the reason we named it Anther is that the anther is a part of the flower that produces the pollen and it spreads the pollen. And so that's the real meaning behind our company. So we want to work with not only individuals and large organizations to entrepreneurial businesses to teach them these skills. How do you keep these types of things? How do you learn these in your life? And how do you create that as you are in a work environment and your home environment with your relationships? How do you make those pivots? How do you lean into all that? Because we're constantly pivoting in our lives as adults, right? We're always going through transitions, always. Yeah. So that was the impetus to start Anther. And we just launched it this year in March.
So now you're super busy again? Or are you finding some pockets of time that you're able to still have an open space for yourself?
Excellent question. Because, what's really funny is today I was like, I have too much today. Like I woke up and I was like, I feel it. I feel like the tidal wave of today. Went for a walk. I got outside. I went for a walk with the dogs. It was quiet, beautiful. Like that's a great reset for me. And then I said, you need to take inventory of this, Lara. Like this is a reminder of, like we have the checks and balances, right? And I am busier and I'm also aware that I am engaging in the things that are aligned, right? With my bigger why, my company, my mission. And I'm very cognizant to not do the things that I don't need to do, which I think I'm queuing this up to both of you. Because as women, I think a lot of times that we feel obligated to do so much more, or there's this word, I was thinking about it yesterday, the word busy. How often do you hear that? How are you? No, this is it. So you run into somebody, how are you? Oh, I'm busy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean? Like, are you doing things that you enjoy? What's exciting you right now? Like,
Busy could be good, busy could be bad, right?
well, busy is just like this term that catches everything. And I think, like, are you feeling fulfilled? What's challenging you in your life? Like, what do you want to work? It's not that we have to have these crazy deep conversations every second of the day, but if you keep in mind your bigger why and your purpose and what you're doing, like for me today, it was a way to reflect on, like, Lara, yeah, all the things you want to do in today, you want to do. And like, maybe spread it out a little. Like, I have a writer's workshop, or something, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, you need to be a little more realistic. And we all get caught in those moments. So I think challenging yourself to ask those questions all the time and saying, do I really need to be doing this? Have to be the decorator for the school thing, to this and that, because this one mom asked me and I adore her. And I don't want people to think that I'm a slacker, like, or I don't participate, but sometimes we just can't do it all. Like, we have to, I guess what I'm saying is we need to give ourselves a break.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we all need what you all are putting together right now. Like, we need Anther because, one of the reasons I left the corporate environment is because that treadmill is so real, and you just feel the fulfillment thing is huge. You feel like you're doing all this work and you're not sure what it's for, And so, like, asking yourself those questions, and I'm trying to get better because, Laura, I sign up for way too much. And I will say, somebody asked me to do something the other day. They're like, oh, you should be on the, join this nonprofit board. I'm like, nope, can't take on anything else.
Good for you.
But being able to say no and be okay with it, right, Jenny? Like, I mean, that's the thing is, and Laura, too, sometimes after you say no to even those things, you're like, oh, like, I should have signed up to, like, volunteer at my kid's school, but you said no because there was, like, that moment of, but I can do it at another time that makes more sense. Or, you don't have to necessarily feel bad about saying no. You take that no as like an empowerment to be like, I said no and I feel good about it because I just opened up space for something else that fits better with where I need to be in this current moment.
I love how you frame that. And I would call that kind of saying no, like a kind, even in a kind way, is self-care.
Yes. Yeah. Cause sometimes and this is where I do feel guilty. I'm like, I need to say no because honestly, I need to move my body because I've been sitting too long. And that feels selfish. Like, I feel like, oh my gosh, that seems ridiculous, but it's a real thing. And then I'm going to perform better, right? In other areas.
And I want to back up and say, like, it's okay to just want to exercise for you, not for an outcome of performance and being better for others. Like, that's the part for me that I'm really breaking down as a female. And I'm saying, like, what is this? Why are we women so inclined to do that? Because I'm generalizing right now. I recognize that. But like, men are like, I got to go do this. And then I even think about it. Like, I watch it, my husband, I'm like, wow, like, you're not worrying about this and that and the other. And so I'm challenging, I'm throwing it back to you to say, sometimes it's just self-care and what you need to do for yourself, because as a human, like, we can't run on high octane at all times. It's impossible. Right. We need to have regenerative time for ourselves, just for ourselves.
Yes.
So we can get in touch with our intuitions. We can figure out, like, what really matters to us, who really matters, what's important. Anyway, I think pauses and reflections are crucial to a well-lived life and a flourishing life.
And earlier you were talking about how you took that time when you were, like, trying to reevaluate after your divorce and figure out what your next chapter looked like. And you said something I think that I want people to pay attention to, because you said you took that time and you did start meditating. You did start taking time for yourself. And what most people do, I think I do it, a lot of people do it, is you are uncomfortable. And so you find the things to distract you, right? Like, so you take action because it's distracting you instead of sitting in the suck for a bit and figuring it out.
I mean, our tendency is to move away from uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
And we have a gazillion distractions now, more than ever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the distraction at times, but if you're not leaning into the bigger picture of why, then you're just going to kind of, my guess is as human beings, we just repeat the same patterns over and over. Right. We find ourselves back on the treadmill.
Yes.
I felt like I was a win today. I was like, Lara, recognize this is how you used to function all the time.
Yes.
And you even question, no wonder I would come home at the end of the day and have break down in tears because my tears are a way of me saying to myself, I'm totally overwhelmed. I mean, other than sadness, but if I do that, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do. But I think that's really, really important is it's okay to take a pause and actually it may not be as daunting as you think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, really taking the pause and thinking about these important things is freedom and empowerment. That's the way I view it now, having done all this, work, and I still do it, and it's daily work. I will say that's why that we've started a business doing this because I'm like, this isn't just like hey, I'm going to do this little workshop and I'm going to go, on a retreat and I'm good. And I'm like, no, it is daily work just as anything is, right? Like if you're building muscles or you're building your podcast, it doesn't happen overnight. What you repeat becomes who you are and what you do.
I love that.
And
so Lara, you have so many wonderful insights. I want to ask a question that I like to ask a lot, and that is, what are you most proud of? You've done a lot of amazing things, but if you had to pick.
It's not one thing. What I'm most proud of is when I feel like I connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
They feel seen and I leave them feeling like they're glad they met me and that we had a mutual exchange. And that's what I'm most proud of is kind of the connection and build, that community building and connection with people. That was the thing with LÄRABAR that I realized, upon passing the baton to General Mills. I was like, we built this amazing community, not only with the people that worked there and loved the company and the mission, but the people that supported it. I view that as the same thing that we're doing in Anther is we're building a community and making a difference in a really positive way in our world because there's a lot of chaos right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be part of the solution and felt that all along, back in, before I started LÄRABAR, when I was in social work, I was like, I don't really know how to solve all the world's problems, but in my little world, in my way, I'm going to be a positive contributor.
I love it. And you have in so many different ways. And I like I said, we need your work. I work at human resources as my other job. And I mean, so many companies need you. So tell us how to find you and do a little plug for your book and when you think that might come out.
Thank you. You're sweet. You can find us at antherglobal.com. We just have a very simple website going right now and tells a little bit about John and myself. John is actually publishing a book in November of this year. It's coming out in 2 months called From Surviving to Thriving. And it's a wonderful,
I like that name.
It touches on a lot of the things that we've talked about today. And then my book, I don't have a publishing date. I'm in process. So I'd say in the next, 26, 27. And I'll keep people up to date about that. And it's a bit of a memoir about kind of some of the things I learned along the way, even about how I was able to start LÄRABAR, like having passion and optimism, and how building resilience allows you to deal with setbacks, things like that. Those are some of the things I'm looking at.
Ooh, that leads me to one more question. What's the best advice you've ever been given or that you'd like to give?
I have a couple things. Can I give you a couple things?
Yes, please.
We won't make you pick.
Take whatever you got.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that never be afraid to ask for something, because the worst that could happen is no. But if you never ask, you never know. You never know what's going to happen, right? Like people go, I was too afraid to ask. And I'm like, if I was too afraid to ask, LÄRABAR would never have happened
Yeah.
because I didn't know anything. Like, you don't need to be the expert. So I would say, try to lead life with curiosity. Be curious about other people. Be curious about ideas and things. Don't try to be the expert. Like, there's so much to learn in the world. And you know what? Honor who you are as a human being. Be your best authentic self. We're all at our best when we're ourselves, not trying to be somebody else or this or that, but like, honor who you are as an authentic human being. We all have gifts and strengths to offer others.
That's great. I think we should end there because there's so much to think about.
No. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Lara. It has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I mean, just so many wonderful tidbits, and you're just so wonderful to chat with. Like, I just taking everything that you've chatted about along your journey and being able to inspire me. Like, I always say, like, an entrepreneur at heart, and just not to give up with those thoughts that sometimes other people might be like, oh, those are silly. You just got to push through. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, I could chat with both of you all day. In fact, I was like, let's get together.
I know. We would love it. We would love it.
Loved our conversation because we just, both of you are so curious. And to me, what a great conversation is about is curiosity. And you've taught me things today. So it's been really a pleasure to be with both of you and spend this time together.
Thank you.
You.